During our daughter's wedding, my husband tried to replace me in the front row with his new nanny. He thought he was just swapping seats. He didn't realize he was swapping my role on the stage. He wanted our daughter's wedding to be the beginning of his new life with her. He just didn't know I was the one writing the ending. I'm good at managing chaos. As an interior designer in the Boston suburbs, my job is to wrangle demanding clients, impossible contractors, and six-figure budgets into something serene. But my daughter Olivia's wedding was a different beast. This wasn't a client's mood board. This was my only child. The pressure was suffocating. Every seating chart, every floral sample, felt like a high-stakes negotiation. My Wellesley office felt a world away. My life had shrunk to tool and tactical decisions. My husband, Mark, was supposed to be my partner in this. He's a CFO at Ethelred Capital, a man who lives by the spreadsheet, a man I thought I knew. With the wedding just 6 weeks away, Mark announced he'd solved my stress problem. "I hired some help," he said, not looking up from his laptop. I was expecting a temporary assistant, maybe a caterer's runner. Then Chloe walked in. Our children are grown. Olivia is 24 and getting married. Our son is a sophomore in college. We haven't needed a nanny in a decade. "This is Chloe," Mark said, beaming in that corporate way of his. "She's going to help manage the household until the wedding." "Manage the household," I repeated, looking at this girl. She couldn't have been more than 22, all bright teeth and a yoga body poured into leggings. "You're just so busy, darling," Mark said, his tone dripping with false concern. "I need you to be able to focus on the fun parts of the wedding. Chloe will handle the logistics." My gut screamed. It wasn't just that she was young or distractingly pretty. It was the way she looked at our home, not like an employee, but like she was browsing. She was all fake sweetness, a syrupy yes, Mrs. Davis, and right away, Mr. Davis. But I noticed she never actually seemed to do any work. The laundry piled up. The dishwasher remained unloaded. Her job seemed to consist of making green smoothies for Mark and sitting in on his home office calls. "I don't like her," I told Mark that night, trying to keep my voice even. "She doesn't do anything. What household is she managing?" Mark sighed, that heavy, put-upon sigh he used when I was being difficult. "You're just paranoid," he said, rubbing his temples. "You're exhausted from the wedding planning. Can't you just accept help when I offer it, God? You're high-strung." He was gaslighting me, and the worst part was, I almost believed him. I was high-strung. I wasn't sleeping, but this felt different. This felt intentional. Then the new phone appeared. Mark already had an iPhone for work and a personal one. Now, there was a third, a sleek black Android he kept face down on his desk. He never let it out of his sight. "It's for a sensitive M&A deal," he snapped when I asked about it. "Ethelred policy. Don't touch it." He'd never been secretive about phones before. I'd lived with this man for 25 years. I knew his tells, and this guarding of a tiny black rectangle was a 5-alarm fire. Chloe, meanwhile, was getting comfortable. She started offering suggestions for the wedding. "Oh, I just think peonies are so basic, don't you?" she'd murmur when I was on a call with the florist. "Mark was saying he prefers the string quartet over the DJ for the cocktail hour," she'd mention, despite me and Olivia already choosing the playlist. And Mark, my husband, who usually found wedding details excruciatingly boring, suddenly had firm opinions. "Let's listen to Chloe, honey," he said, putting a hand on her shoulder. "She has a fresh perspective." A fresh perspective. I wanted to throw my laptop against the wall. I was being sidelined in my own home, at my own daughter's wedding planning. The final straw came a week later. I'd come home early from a site visit, exhausted and craving just 10 minutes of silence. The house was quiet. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, already unbuttoning my coat. And there she was, Chloe, standing in front of my jewelry armoire. She wasn't just looking. She was wearing it. My grandmother's sapphire necklace, the one Mark had reset for me for our 20th anniversary, was clasped around her skinny, tanned neck. She was admiring herself in my mirror, turning her head left and right. I didn't say anything. I just stood in the doorway. The silence finally registered. She froze, her eyes meeting mine in the reflection. A flicker of panic. Then it was gone, replaced by that sickeningly sweet smile. "Oh, Mrs. Davis." "You startled me," she said, her hands fluttering up to the clasp. "Get that off," I said. My voice was dangerously calm. "Oh, no, you don't understand." She giggled, a fake, breathy sound. "Mark just wanted me to help get everything organized for the wedding day. He said I should see what pieces would look best with your dresses. He was worried you'd forget. He was worried I'd forget. He'd sent his new nanny, his household manager, into my private bedroom to try on my most precious jewelry." She fumbled with the clasp, her smile finally slipping. "I was just trying to help." "Get out," I said. "Mark just said—" I said, "Get out." She scurried past me, refusing to meet my eyes, the smell of her cheap floral perfume lingering in my room like an insult. I stood there for a long time, the heavy silence of the house pressing in. He wasn't just stressed. He wasn't just outsourcing. This wasn't paranoia. This was a coup. After the necklace incident, Mark didn't apologize. He manufactured a cold, quiet rage, expressing his profound disappointment that I would traumatize a young woman who was, in his words, holding this family together. He said my stress was becoming toxic, and he wouldn't let me derail Olivia's happiness. That was the turning point. The coup began in earnest. I was no longer invited to the planning meetings. I'd come home from my studio to find Mark, Olivia, and Chloe huddled at the kitchen island, laptops open, surrounded by binders. "Just a quick planning session. Mom," Olivia would say, her eyes darting nervously between me and her father. "Why is she here?" I asked Mark later, my voice a low growl. "She's a nanny for children we don't have, not a wedding planner." "She's taking notes. Sarah," he said, using the slow, patient voice one uses for an unreasonable child. "Frankly, you've been dropping the ball. You forgot to confirm the string quartet." Chloe remembered. Chloe is organized. The woman who ran a six-figure design firm, who managed multi-million-dollar construction projects, was dropping the ball. When I tried to push my way back in, to give my opinion on the lighting, Mark would hold up a hand. "Actually, honey, Chloe and I already ran the numbers. The uplighting you want is about 30% over budget. We're going with the string lights. It's handled. The gaslighting became a team sport. He was painting me as unstable, and Olivia, my daughter, was beginning to believe him. She just wanted a perfect day, and I was the problem standing in the way of that. "We need to let your mom rest." I overheard Mark telling Olivia in the hallway, his voice heavy with fake concern. "She's not handling the stress well. It's not her fault. She's just overwhelmed. Let's you and I, and Chloe, just shoulder this. It's better for her if we protect her from the details." I felt myself being erased. I was a ghost in my own house, watching my daughter's wedding be planned by my husband and his 22-year-old assistant. I retreated. I buried myself in my work, channeling the white-hot rage into client presentations and floor plans. My studio became my sanctuary. But at home, the suspicion was a physical sickness, a constant low-grade fever. I stopped sleeping. I'd lie in bed, rigid, next to a man who felt like a stranger, a man who smelled faintly of Chloe's coconut shampoo. The cake tasting was the final humiliation. I had it on my calendar for a month. Friday, 5 p.m. It was the one thing I'd held on to, a simple, normal mother-daughter moment. I left work early, fighting traffic, genuinely excited. I got home at 4:30. The house was empty. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. "So sorry Dad said you were stuck on a huge install. We had to move the cake tasting up Dad and Chloe came with me. It was a last-minute decision. Don't worry, we saved you a sample." I wasn't on an install. I had been at the grocery store. He had lied to our daughter to exclude me. He had taken her to taste my daughter's wedding cake. They came home hours later, giddy, carrying a small white box. "It was incredible, honey," Mark said, kissing the top of my head, a gesture so false it made my skin crawl. "Chloe has surprisingly good taste." She pointed out that the raspberry filling you wanted would stain people's teeth in photos. "Smart." I smiled. It was the hardest smile I have ever produced. "How wonderful." That night, I waited. I lay perfectly still until I heard the deep, even breathing of Mark's sleep beside me. He slept like a baby. The arrogance of it. I slipped out of bed and went downstairs. The new phone, his work phone, was impossible. He kept it on him or locked in his briefcase. But he was sloppy. He was arrogant. He'd forgotten the family iPad. It was tucked in a magazine rack in the den, screen dark, collecting dust. He hadn't used it in at least a year. I powered it on. The screen glowed, and then they appeared. A cascade of green and blue notifications. His iMessage account was still synced. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it would break a rib. I opened the app. There she was. Chloe. He'd deleted most of the thread, thinking he was clever. But he didn't understand the cloud. He didn't understand that fragments get stuck, that the digital ghosts remain. It wasn't just flirting. It was strategy. Mark Olivia is buying into the mom is stressed angle. You're doing great. She sees you as a sister. Chloe. She totally trusts me. She told me today she was glad I was here to handle you. Mark perfect. We need her on our side when I drop the bomb. Keep it up. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a midlife crisis. This was a planned demolition. He was actively, systematically poisoning my daughter against me, positioning Chloe as the stable, reliable family supporter so that when he finally left me, Olivia would see me as the problem. I scrolled, my thumb shaking so badly I could barely control it. I felt bile rise in my throat, and then I saw it. The message that stopped my breathing. It was from 2 weeks ago, right after I'd found her with my jewelry. Chloe. She looked at me like she wanted to kill me today, just for trying on that ugly old thing. Mark, forget her. You look even better in that turquoise than she ever did. Make sure you get a gorgeous dress for the big day. It's our debut, after all. A gorgeous dress. For the big day. He wasn't just having an affair. He was planning a reveal. At my daughter's wedding. I didn't sleep. I lay there for hours, the blue-white glow of the iPad having burned the messages onto the back of my eyelids. It's our debut, after all. I waited, motionless, until the first gray light of dawn seeped into the room. At 6:15, on the dot, I heard the shower turn on. Mark, ever the man of routine. He always left his briefcase in his home office, but the new phone, the sensitive work phone he kept on his bedside table. My feet didn't make a sound on the hardwood floor. He was in the shower, the sound of the water a perfect cover. The phone was there, face down. I picked it up. My hands were perfectly steady. I had been hoarding information. A few weeks ago, I'd overheard Chloe on the phone with her mother, whining about a forgotten birthday. It's May 10th. Mom, I can't believe you forgot, she'd trilled. May 10th, 10:05. Pathetic. I typed in the code. The phone unlocked. It wasn't a work phone. It was a burn phone, and they were sloppy. They hadn't deleted a thing. My vision went sharp, the way it does when you're in a car accident. The world narrows. It wasn't just a thread. It was an encyclopedia. Thousands of messages, photos, videos. 6 solid months of them. A life lived in parallel to mine. In my house. I scrolled. I scrolled past the sickening selfies of them in our guest room. I scrolled past videos of them laughing in his car. I scrolled until I found the architecture of the plan. He was going to leave me. That was obvious. But it was the how that took my breath away. "You're sure the joint account is enough for the final venue payment?" Chloe had texted. "It's more than enough," Mark replied. "Her design business has been good for something, I guess. It's almost all her money." Poetic. He was draining our joint savings account, the account I had funded with my bonuses and inheritance to pay for our daughter's entire wedding. And the plan, laid out in explicit, cruel detail, was to wait until Olivia and her new husband were on their honeymoon. The second their plane was in the air, he was going to serve me with divorce papers. "She's paying for the wedding. It's so generous," he wrote. "It will be her parting gift." I sat down on the floor of his closet, the smell of his cedar shoe trees choking me. The messages got worse. They were vile. They made fun of my work. Another eclectic beige room. So inspired. They made fun of my age. "She wears that expensive anti-aging cream to bed. It smells like medicine." They had a whole narrative planned for the aftermath. Chloe, the devastated family friend who had tried her best to help a difficult, stressed woman, would be the only one who could console Mark in his grief over the sudden divorce. They would wait a respectable month or two before going public. "Ethelred Capital dinner is next month." Mark had written just last week. "That will be our night. You'll be on my arm. My real partner." The tears I was expecting never came. My sadness, my panic, it all evaporated. What replaced it was a void, a cold, clear, terrifying certainty. The woman who had been lying in bed, crying, was gone. A new one was sitting on the closet floor, holding a weapon. I worked. I spent the next 3 hours in that closet. I forwarded every message, every photo, every video. I sent them to a new encrypted email account I'd created on the iPad. I documented the dates, the times. I screenshotted his digital calendar, which cross-referenced his sensitive business meetings with Chloe's spa appointments. I saved everything: the sexting, the financial planning, the insults. I saved the picture he sent her of me, asleep, mouth slightly open, with the caption, "The dragon sleeps," when the phone was hollowed out, when every piece of evidence was secure. I checked the time, 7:05. He'd be out of the shower soon, getting dressed. I meticulously deleted the forwarded messages from the phone's sent folder. I cleared the cache. I closed the apps. I wiped the screen of my fingerprints. I placed the phone back on his nightstand, face down, at the exact same angle I had found it. I slipped back into our bed. I pulled the covers up to my chin. When he came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, he looked over at me. I feigned a sleepy stir. "You're awake," he murmured, toweling his hair. "Just tired," I said. "Didn't sleep well?" "I told you," he said, that patronizing tone firmly in place. "You're too stressed. Maybe I should have Chloe bring you some tea." "That would be nice," I said, my voice soft. He smiled, satisfied. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my eyes wide open in the dark, watching the shadows move. He was right. I was paying for the wedding. It was my parting gift, but he had no idea what the party was for. I wasn't just planning a seating chart anymore. I was planning a war. The next morning, I was the first one downstairs. When Mark came down, I had his coffee ready. He looked at me, suspicious, expecting the tear-streaked, hysterical wife from the night before. I gave him a watery, defeated smile. "Mark," I said, my voice just shaky enough. "I need to apologize." "You're right." He stopped, his coffee mug halfway to his mouth. "What?" "You're right. I'm just so wound up about the wedding. It's making me crazy. I'm seeing things that aren't there. I was horrible to Chloe, and I was horrible to you. I squeezed my eyes shut, forcing a tear. "I'm overwhelmed. I'm sorry." The relief that washed over his face was disgusting. He put his mug down and wrapped his arms around me in a hug that felt like a cage. "It's okay, honey," he said, patting my back. "It's okay. I understand. It's a lot of pressure. Why don't you take the day? Get a massage. Let me and Chloe handle the final vendor calls. We've got this. Thank you, I whispered into his shoulder. You're my rock. I know, he said, smug. By 10 a.m., I wasn't at a spa. I was in a high-rise in downtown Boston, in an office overlooking the harbor, sliding a USB drive across a mahogany desk. Ms. Harding was not a family lawyer. She was a financial dissolution specialist. She was rumored to have once made a hedge fund manager cry in a deposition. She was thin, impeccably dressed, and looked at me over her glasses like I was a problem she was being paid to solve. You said on the phone it was time-sensitive, she said, her voice like dry ice. It is. I watched her plug the drive in. I watched her open the folder. I watched her read. She didn't flinch at the photos. She didn't gasp at the texts. She just read, her eyes moving with terrifying speed. When she got to the spreadsheet I'd pulled from his laptop, the one detailing his plan to serve me after the wedding, she actually smiled. It was not a nice smile. He's a CFO at Ethelred, she stated. Yes. And he's funneling marital assets, specifically your earned income, into a single event, with the intention of declaring divorce immediately after, leaving you with the bill and him with the cash. Yes. And he kept a written 6-month correspondence of this plan, including his intent to cohabitate with the nanny, who is a household employee. Yes. Ms. Harding closed the folder and looked at me. He's arrogant, and arrogant men are sloppy. They make mistakes. This, she tapped the USB drive, is not a mistake. This is a gift. We didn't waste a second. We didn't start with a warning shot. We started with the financial guillotine. By noon, I was at a new bank, opening a new corporate account in my name only. By 1 p.m., I had executed a wire transfer for exactly 50% of our joint savings account. The money was gone. By 2 p.m., I had called my personal broker. My inheritance from my father, which Mark managed for me, was in a separate account but one he had access to. I had him liquidate 40% of the blue-chip stocks and wire the proceeds to a new, offshore account in the Caymans that Ms. Harding's office had facilitated. It's done, I told her. Back in her office by 4. Good, she said, signing a stack of papers. The divorce petition is ready. We will file it on the Monday after the wedding. We will allege adultery, fraudulent dissipation of marital assets, and extreme financial abuse. I wasn't done. The rage had made me a meticulous researcher. There's more, I said. He's been taking her on business trips. Harding's forensic accountant took only 1 hour. Mark was sloppy there. 2. He had been using his Ethelred Capital corporate card, a weekend in Miami, disguised as a fintech conference, a 5-day strategy meeting in Napa, which just happened to be at a 5-star resort and spa. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was stealing from his company. But the final piece, the one that broke the last bit of my heart and turned it to steel, I found that night. He had left the wedding contingency budget open on our home computer. I was looking for the final payment to the caterer, and I saw it. An invoice, paid, from the contingency fund. It was from a custom dressmaker in Beacon Hill. The description, one-of-a-kind gown, emerald turquoise silk, rush order. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for Olivia. He had paid for Chloe's custom-made $8,000 gown from the wedding account. He was using my money, the money I had earned, the money I thought I was spending on my daughter's celebration, to outfit my replacement. He didn't just want to replace me. He wanted to do it with my money, at my party, right in front of my eyes. He wanted me to pay for my own execution. My apology was a masterpiece of theater. I woke up the next day and became the woman they wanted me to be: compliant, cheerful, and slightly broken, in need of their strength. I became the perfect mother of the bride. You were right, Mark, I said over breakfast, my voice bright. I was letting the stress get to me. I've decided to just enjoy it. It's our daughter's big day. I made checklists. I confirmed flower deliveries with a smile. I was ruthlessly efficient, a whirlwind of pleasant, organized energy. And just as I'd predicted, They relaxed, their arrogance, no longer held in check by the fear of my suspicion, bloomed. Mark stopped hiding his new phone. He'd even text on it right in front of me, smiling at the screen, believing I thought it was just work. Chloe was worse. With my surrender, she saw a power vacuum and stepped right in. She was no longer the assistant. She was the lady of the manor. I overheard her being sharp with Mrs. Gable, our housekeeper of 15 years. No, not like that. Mr. Davis is very particular about his shirts, and I know how he likes them. Just let me handle it. She started issuing orders to the caterers who called, using "we" in a way that set my teeth on edge. No, we decided on the string lights, not the uplighting. Then, I saw the dress. It was hanging in a garment bag, not hidden, but displayed. Accidentally, left hanging on the outside of the guest room closet door, the one she now occupied. The zipper was open just enough to show a flash of emerald turquoise silk, the $8,000 dress I had paid for. She walked out as I was standing there, pretending to be on my way to the linen closet. "Oh, goodness," she said, a fake blush rising. "Just trying to let it breathe before the big day." I smiled. The smile felt like it was cracking my face, but I held it. "That color is stunning. Chloe, it'll be beautiful at the reception. You have wonderful taste." Her face lit up, smug and victorious. She thought I was complimenting her. She didn't realize I was confirming the evidence. That weekend, I hosted an intimate pre-wedding dinner for just the immediate family and the wedding party. It was my idea. "Just to thank everyone," I'd said. "Especially you, Mark." At the end of the meal, I stood up, my wine glass in hand. "I just want to make a small toast," I said, my voice full of practiced emotion. The room quieted. Olivia looked at me, smiling. Mark looked proud. To my husband. "Mark." I turned to him, meeting his eyes. "I know I have been a little difficult these past few months." I laughed, a light, self-deprecating sound. "But he has been my absolute rock." He stepped in and managed everything when I was overwhelmed. He and Chloe. I nodded to her. "Have been a true godsend. I couldn't have done this without you." I raised my glass. "To Mark, my pillar." He beamed. He actually beamed, his chest puffing out, and kissed me on the cheek. He believed every word of it. While they were basking in their victory, I was finalizing my own. The wedding venue came with a state-of-the-art AV system. The vendor, AV Source, was one I had personally selected. I'd worked with the owner, a guy named David, on 3 of my largest design projects. He owed me favors. I ran into him during a final walkthrough, while Mark and Chloe were handling the seating chart. "David," I said, pulling him aside, my voice conspiratorial and excited. "I have a huge favor to ask. It's a surprise." "Anything for you," he said. "I've put together a special video tribute for Mark. Just a little journey of our life together before we give away Olivia. It's very sentimental, and it's a total secret. Not even Olivia knows. I want it to play right after his speech at the reception." He smiled, thinking it was sweet. "That's lovely. No problem at all. Just get me the file." "Here's the thing," I said, lowering my voice. "He's going to be so surprised, he might even try to stop it out of embarrassment. You have to promise me your tech will not stop the video. No matter what, it has to play all the way through." I smiled. "He gets so shy." "You got it," David said, patting my arm. "Consider it locked. Just get us the drive, and we'll make sure it plays." "You're a lifesaver," I said. That night, I made one last call. "Ms. Harding." "It's me." I listened for a beat. "Yes, everything is proceeding," I said, watching Mark and Chloe laugh in the kitchen from my upstairs office. "File the papers. Monday morning, 9 a.m. on the dot." It was 3 days before the wedding. The final checks were done. The house was buzzing with an anxious energy, and I was playing the role of the serene, happy mother of the bride. Mark found me in my home office, where I was pretending to review the seating chart for the 10th time. He didn't knock. He burst in, his phone pressed to his ear, his face a mask of controlled panic. "Oh my God," he was saying. "Yes, of course. How bad is it?" He hung up and looked at me, his eyes wide. This was his Oscar moment. "What is it?" I asked, standing up, letting my voice fill with the appropriate dread. "Sarah," he said, and his voice was thick. He crossed the room and grabbed my hands. "That was your cousin in Denver. You need to sit down." "It's Mom, isn't it?" I whispered. He nodded, his face grim. "She had a fall, down the stairs. It's bad. Sarah, a broken hip, and they're worried about her head. She's in the hospital. She's asking for you." I performed the perfect, shattering inhale. I let my hands fly to my mouth. "Oh my God, is she—" "She's stable for now, but you have to go. Now." "But the wedding," I said, my voice breaking. "It's 3 days. I can't leave Olivia." "Of course you can," he said, his voice a perfect blend of compassion and steel. "This is your mother. Olivia will understand. I've already booked you a flight. First class. It leaves from Logan in 3 hours. I will handle everything here. You go." He was so supportive. He was the perfect, capable husband, taking charge of a crisis. Okay, I stammered, letting the tears well up. "Okay, I'll pack." I ran upstairs, a hysterical, grieving daughter. I threw things into a suitcase. I grabbed a toothbrush. I was so distraught, I packed a cocktail dress and a pair of running shoes. Mark came up to help, which meant watching me with a look of profound, husbandly concern, his eyes gleaming with victory. Chloe was hovering in the hallway, her hand over her heart, looking so sorry. "I'll call Olivia," Mark said. "I'll tell her. You just focus on getting to the airport. I'll take care of everything, I promise." He drove me to Logan himself. The entire ride, he held my hand, telling me not to worry, that he and Chloe had the final vendors locked down, that his only priority was me and my mother. He was a monster, and he was a brilliant actor. He walked me all the way to the security line. He pulled me into a hug that felt like a trap, burying his face in my hair. "Call me the second you land. Don't even talk to the doctors until you call me," he whispered. "I will," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. "I love you," he said. I couldn't say it back. I just nodded, sobbing, and turned away. I watched him through the glass. He stood there, watching me, his face a perfect picture of a worried husband. He waved, a sad, brave little wave. He was so relieved. He thought he had just removed the only obstacle. I got through security. I put my shoes back on. I walked to the designated gate. I even sat down for 5 minutes, just in case he was paranoid enough to check the flight status. I pulled out my phone, my real phone, and sent him one last text, waiting at the gate. "It's packed. This is a nightmare. I love you so much. Thank you for handling everything." His reply was instantaneous. "I love you. Be strong. We've got this. I stood up. I walked calmly to the nearest restroom. I waited 2 minutes. Then I walked out, turned left, and headed straight back toward the airport exit. I walked right out of the sliding glass doors, into the cold Boston air, and got in a taxi. "The Four Seasons, downtown," I said. The cab pulled away from the curb. I was back in the city in less than 20 minutes. I checked into the suite I had pre-booked under my design firm's corporate account. I walked to the window and looked out over the city. I was supposed to be in the air, flying to Denver, completely helpless. I pulled out the burner phone I'd bought for cash 2 weeks ago. I had exactly one number programmed in it. My mother's. She picked up on the second ring. She was not in a hospital. She was at her yoga class in Denver, perfectly healthy. "How was the class?" "Mom." "Oh, splendid, dear." My downward-facing dog is better than ever, she said, her voice crisp. Is it time? He took the bait, I said. He thinks I'm on a plane. Good, she said. He always was an arrogant little prick. Now, you go handle your business. Sarah, I've got a bridge game at 2. I clicked end call. I took my real iPhone, the one Mark was probably tracking, the one he would try to call in 4 hours when my flight was landing. I powered it off. I was a ghost, a very well-rested, very angry ghost in a $500 a night hotel suite with a battle to plan. My suite at the Four Seasons was not a hotel room. It was a command center. For 48 hours. I worked like a general on the eve of an invasion. I didn't sleep. I strategized. Room service coffee was my fuel, and a cold, clear fury was my focus. The first move was the most painful. I used the burner phone to call Olivia. She answered on the first ring, her voice already thick with tears. Mom, oh, God, Mom, Dad told me. How is she? How's Grandma? I took a breath and shattered my own voice. Oh, Livy. I wept, a dry, rasping sound I'd been practicing. Honey, I'm so sorry. What is it? Is she? She's out of surgery. I lied, and the words felt like swallowing glass. But the doctor, he said it's complicated. There was a clot. They're watching her. I can't. Livy, I can't leave her. A small, wounded sound came through the phone, the sound of my daughter's heart breaking. No. Mom. No, you can't. I'm not going to make it, baby, I sobbed. I'm going to miss your wedding. She broke down completely, and the guilt was so profound I almost confessed. But I held the line. I was lying to my daughter to save her, to spare her from the public humiliation her father had planned. It's okay, I said, my voice shaking. It's okay. This is your day. Your father is there. He'll take care of everything. You are going to be beautiful. I love you so much. She believed me. Utterly. I hung up and stared at the wall for 10 solid minutes. I powered on my real phone just long enough for the messages to flood in. Mark was texting the phone he believed was in Denver. It's awful. Honey, just awful. We miss you terribly. But don't you worry about a thing. Chloe and I have it all under control. The vendors are confirmed. Just focus on your mom. And a follow-up. An hour later. Olivia is a wreck, but Chloe is with her now, calming her down. She's a lifesaver. We will get through this. And Chloe. He wasn't even bothering to hide it. He was already a unit. He was already the grieving husband being supported by the loving nanny. Then, the email I was waiting for arrived, forwarded from a friend at the event company. Subject final seating chart. Mark had sent it to them last night, citing the tragic family emergency and the need for last-minute adjustments. I opened the file. Table 1, the main family table, groom's parents, groom, Olivia, and Mr. Mark Davis. My seat, the one labeled Mother of the Bride, was gone. It didn't just have a new name. The entire chair had been removed, and in the empty space, slid right up next to my husband, was a new seat. Ms. Chloe Martin. He had eliminated me and replaced me at the head table. My rage became so cold and sharp it was almost peaceful. That afternoon, I left the hotel in a baseball cap and sunglasses. I met David, the AV lead, at a small cafe miles from the venue. He looked worried. I heard about your mom, he said. I'm so sorry. I assumed the surprise was off. It's more important than ever, I said, my voice low and urgent. I slid the black USB drive across the table. I need this to play, a tribute, for my family. He pocketed it. Of course. File name. Our Journey MP4. I said, and David, the promise stands. When I give the signal, you play it, and you do not stop. You let it run to the end, no matter what. No matter who tells you to stop. Do you understand me? He saw something in my eyes. He stopped being a vendor and just nodded. I understand. I won't let you down. Back in my war room, I made the final preparations. I called the front desk and confirmed a car service for the next day. I steamed my armor. It was hanging in a garment bag, not the pale, respectable beige dress Mark had seen. This was a custom gown I had commissioned the day after I found the texts. It was a deep, midnight blue silk, structured and powerful. It was not the dress of a victim. My last task was the email. I logged into my secure account. I attached the final file, the texts, the photos, the Miami and Napa resort receipts from his Ethelred corporate card, the invoice for Chloe's turquoise dress paid from the wedding account. I addressed it to the entire board of directors at Ethelred Capital. The subject line was clean, BCC proof of CFO Mark Davis's misconduct. I didn't hit send. I scheduled it. It was timed to go out at exactly 8 p.m. The next night, right as the reception speeches were set to begin, I closed the laptop. The traps were set. I ordered a glass of expensive champagne from room service, looked out over the Boston skyline, and prepared for my daughter's wedding. The day of the wedding dawned crisp and perfect. The estate in the suburbs was a picture of New England autumn, all golden leaves and manicured lawns. I wasn't there. I was in a different hotel, a smaller, discreet one just 10 minutes down the road from the venue. While a stylist I'd hired worked on my hair and makeup, I watched the clock. My calm was absolute. It was terrifying. I could picture the scene perfectly. Mark would be in his element. He'd be at the entrance, greeting our friends and family, his face a mask of tragic, brave fatherhood. I could already hear his voice, pitched low with emotion, explaining my terrible absence. "It's a tragedy," he'd be saying, shaking his head. "Sarah is heartbroken. She's with her mother. It's just awful. But she insisted the day go on for Olivia. She's so strong." He'd be accepting their sympathy, soaking it in. He was probably dabbing a dry eye with a handkerchief. He was performing as the widower, practicing for the role he intended to make permanent. And Olivia, my heart ached for her. She would be sad, a cloud over her bright day, but she'd be trying to be brave, and every time her composure wavered, Chloe would be there. Chloe, she'd be wearing it, the $8,000 custom-made turquoise silk gown. My gown. She wouldn't be lurking in the background like staff. She'd be front and center, a beacon of supportive grace. She'd be fluffing Olivia's veil, handing her a tissue, whispering in her ear, all while looking like a member of the royal party. She wasn't just a guest of honor. She was auditioning for the role of my replacement, and today was her triumphant debut. The Ethelred Capital partners would be there, the men Mark so desperately wanted to impress. I saw them in my mind, clapping him on the back. "So sorry to hear about your wife. Mark, anything we can do? You're a hell of a man for holding this together." He'd be soaking in their pity, cementing his narrative of the long-suffering husband. In my hotel room, the transformation was complete. The midnight blue dress was zipped. My makeup was flawless, not bridal, but battle-ready. I was a stranger to myself in the mirror. My burner phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't know, but a message I was expecting. "System is go, projector is hot, file is loaded. Good luck. David, my AV angel." I checked the time. 4 p.m. The ceremony was starting. I let myself imagine it. The string quartet playing, the guests rising, and my daughter, my beautiful Olivia, walking down that aisle. She'd be looking for me in the front row and seeing an empty chair. Her heart would break a little more, and beside her, holding her arm, would be Mark. He'd be smiling, that proud, paternal smile he had practiced. He'd be the perfect, doting father, brimming with love and suppressed sorrow. He would hand our daughter over, a picture of dignity. He would play his part to perfection. Good, I thought, checking my lipstick. Let him. The higher the pedestal, the farther the fall. My car was waiting downstairs. It was time for the reception. I stood in the shadows of the service entrance, the heavy oak door propped open just a crack. The ballroom was magnificent, a sea of white florals and candlelight. It was the design I had cried over, the one I had approved. From my sliver of darkness, I could see them all. 200 guests, our friends, our family, all eating the salmon I had chosen. The clinking of silverware subsided. The DJ, a man I had not hired, announced the father of the bride's speech. A spotlight hit the stage, and there was Mark. He walked up, adjusted the mic, and flashed that $1,000,000 CFO smile. He looked perfect. He looked devastated. His performance was flawless. "Wow," he started, his voice thick with emotion. "My little girl, Olivia, I look at you tonight, and you are just breathtaking." He went on, talking about her first steps, her first day of school. He talked about love and family and the future. It was a beautiful speech. It was all a lie. I watched Olivia at the head table, dabbing her eyes, her new husband holding her hand. And then, Mark's tone shifted. He gripped the mic stand. He was getting to the climax. "As many of you know," he said, his voice dropping, we are facing a difficult time. My wonderful wife, Sarah, couldn't be here tonight." A collective sympathetic sigh rippled through the room. I saw my friends, my real friends, look down at their plates, their faces etched with worry. The Ethelred partners were nodding, a somber, respectful, "We know." "She is where she needs to be, with her mother," Mark continued, his voice cracking perfectly. "And it's a testament to her strength that she insisted we all be here, to celebrate." He paused. He was scanning the room, the master of ceremonies. "But in a moment of crisis," he said, "in a moment of darkness, true strength is revealed. And in this incredibly difficult time, when I was falling apart, when Olivia was heartbroken, one person became a pillar. For all of us." I stopped breathing. This was it. He turned his gaze, not to me, not to my empty chair, but to the head table, to the seat beside him. One person stepped in, with no thought for herself, and held this entire family together, Olivia and I. We simply would not have made it through this without her. His eyes were locked on her. The turquoise dress was incandescent under the lights. He held out his hand. "Chloe," he said, his voice ringing with false gratitude. "Chloe, please, come up here." The music stopped. The chatter died. There was a sound, the sound of 200 people confused, all at once. I saw guests turning to each other, whispering. Who? The nanny Chloe, however, was not confused. This was her moment. She rose from her chair at the head table, her face a perfect, radiant mask of humble joy. She was glowing. She walked onto the stage, took Mark's outstretched hand, and stood beside him, facing the crowd. He didn't let go. He squeezed her hand, a public, possessive gesture. This was the debut. This was the replacement. He had put his mistress on stage at our daughter's wedding, next to our grieving daughter, and was presenting her as the new matriarch. He thought he was writing the first chapter of his new life. He didn't know I was standing 10 feet away, holding the ending. Mark still had his hand clasped in hers. He was opening his mouth to continue, to anoint her as his new partner. And that's when the main ballroom doors swung open. I didn't just walk in. I made an entrance. The midnight blue dress felt like armor. The silence didn't just fall. It crashed. The music, the whispers, the clinking of glasses. It all stopped. Like a switch had been thrown. 200 heads turned. Mark froze. The blood drained from his face, leaving a pasty white mask. He let go of Chloe's hand as if it were on fire. Chloe. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Her perfect, radiant smile contorted into a mask of pure terror. I said nothing. I just walked. I walked past the tables of our stunned friends. I walked past the horrified Ethelred partners. I walked straight up the steps to the stage, my heels clicking on the wood. The MC, wide-eyed, was holding a second microphone. I took it from his hand. I looked at the crowd. Then I looked at my husband. "I caught the last flight," I said, my voice clear and amplified, ringing through the silent room. "I just couldn't miss this." I turned to Mark. His mouth was open, but no sound was coming out. "You're right, Mark," I said, my voice dangerously soft. "I was listening from the back. You are so right. Chloe. She deserves some very, very special recognition." His eyes went wide. He knew. I turned my head, just slightly, to the back of the room where David, my AV angel, was waiting in his booth. I gave him a single, sharp nod. "No," Mark screamed. It was a raw, primal sound. "Don't turn it off. Stop." He lunged for the side of the stage, as if he could somehow stop a digital signal with his bare hands. He was too late. The giant projector screens that flanked the stage, the ones that had been playing a sweet slideshow of Olivia's childhood, flickered. And then they lit up. The first image was a text message. One of Mark's messages to Chloe. "She's paying for the wedding. It's so generous. It will be her parting gift." And right next to it, a photo. One I had found deep in his phone. Mark and Chloe in our guest room, kissing. A deep, passionate kiss. A collective, horrified gasp sucked the air out of the room. The screen changed. Another text. "You look even better in that turquoise than she ever did. Make sure you get a gorgeous dress for the big day." And next to it, a close-up of Chloe, the one she had sent him, posing in that very same turquoise dress in my bedroom mirror. Then came the flood. The screens were a cascade of their secret life. The texts making fun of my age. The plans to serve me divorce papers. The selfie of me asleep, with his caption, "The dragon sleeps." I heard a woman in the front row say, "Oh my God!" I heard a glass shatter. I saw Olivia, my daughter, my poor daughter, her hand flying to her mouth, a terrible, strangled sob escaping. At the Ethelred table, the partners were all standing. They weren't just watching a marriage implode. They were watching their CFO's career end. One of them, a man I knew, looked at me with a mixture of terror and respect. Mark was still trying, clawing at the curtains, screaming for the technicians. I raised the microphone. "Don't bother, darling," I said, my voice cutting through his panic. "They can't stop it, and just so you know." I sent the full unedited version, along with your doctored expense reports from Miami and Napa, to the entire Ethelred Board of Directors. The email was delivered. I glanced at my watch. Oh, about 10 minutes ago. That stopped him. He froze. A man witnessing his own execution. Chloe didn't wait. She gathered the skirt of her $8,000 dress and fled. She ran off the stage, pushing past a stunned bridesmaid, and disappeared out the side door, her sobs echoing behind her. Mark stood alone, bathed in the glow of his own treachery. Destroyed. I looked at him for one last second. The stranger I had lived with for 25 years. I put the microphone down, the thud echoing in the dead silence. I walked off the stage. I walked directly to the head table, to my daughter, who was now weeping in her husband's arms. I pushed her hair back from her face. "You deserved the truth," I whispered. I kissed her on the forehead. Then I turned my back on Mark. I turned my back on the ruin he had built, and I walked, head held high, through the stunned, silent crowd and right out the front doors of the ballroom. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Please comment below and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to chat and share our thoughts. Please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like the video, and give it a huge boost by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this.